Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is potentially it. December 3rd, the day this video is going up, is probably and hopefully the last day that I ever have to play Battlefield 2042. Because tomorrow, December 4th, is when Delta Force releases at 7 p.m. EST. So in this video, I thought I'd give you guys a good old Ender's Rant. They don't really do these very often. You know, there will be yelling and cursing in this video, a lot of it. I'm going to try to just put 2042 in hindsight and just sort of encapsulate my entire experience with the game, what I learned, how it was, and what the future holds with Delta Force and what I kind of expect. So without further ado, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's open this new chapter on the channel. Obviously, this will not be the end of me making Battlefield content. No. Don't worry, guys. I'm still going to be covering all the new Battlefield news, definitely the new Battlefield, but this is the first time ever on this channel that I will not be playing a Battlefield game. This is actually the first time in this channel that my main game will not even be an EA game. It'll be a completely new publisher, completely new developer, and a completely new game. So allow me to attempt to put Battlefield 2042 in hindsight without yammering for about 50 minutes. Obviously, the launch of the game was absolutely horrific. You could describe the launch of the game as legitimately depressing for a number of reasons, and I'm not going to dwell on the launch of the game for too long. I did make an entire review video that heavily focused on the release date of the game, so if you missed that, you can go watch that video. I'll link it in the description. But I maintain to this day that Battlefield 2042 is still that same horrifically depressing, awful video game. You see delusional people try to say that they saved Battlefield 2042. People trying to downplay the catastrophic nature of that game. And I maintain to this day that it is easily one of the top 10 worst FPS launches in the past decade. And for me, it's probably in the top 3. I legitimately hold Battlefield 2042 in that poor of a light because it utterly destroyed the community in a way that no Battlefield game has ever done before. The quality of the game was the worst I've ever seen for a game that has this large of a stature. The mouse input to this day, right now, ladies and gentlemen, does not work. Every single piece of gameplay you've ever watched from anyone playing the game, the input of the game at an engine level has been bugged. You are not watching legitimately representative gameplay. It feels like absolute garbage. To this day, it is the worst feeling video game I have ever had the displeasure to feel. And allow me to take this moment to put all the morons that try to say the game feels fine on blast. You are absolute garbage at video games if you think Battlefield 2042 feels fine when you play it. This game by far has the most vomit-inducing input experience of all time, and it quite literally misrepresents your talent and your ability. I will never forgive them for that. It is unacceptable, and quite frankly, they should not be allowed to release another game in that state. In my opinion, it should be illegal because your game is not at a basic functional level. The input, the literal way you aim in an FPS game is not functioning correctly. So how can you possibly say this is a functioning first-person shooter? You just can't. Now, add the broken input on top of the fact that the recoil of the game was bugged since the alpha, and I and Baranox had to tell the developers that. You just have a deadly concoction of some of the worst slop you could ever put into a video game. At no point could you ever feel locked in while you play Battlefield 2042? And again, I just have to really emphasize how completely and utterly unacceptable that is. And speaking about unacceptable, let's just touch on Battlefield 2042's obvious massive lack of content and the quality of that content, which is another very important factor. So not only does Battlefield 2042 have the least amount of Battlefield content we've ever received, it also happens to be the worst Battlefield content we've ever received. The quality of the maps are, again, utterly unacceptable. You look at maps like Discarded, you look at maps like Stadium, you look at maps like Orbital, and you just have to wonder who the fuck was actually looking at this? Who actually approved this design? Who thought this would play well? Who designed the out of bounds? Who made the flags? Who made the flag spawns? How could you possibly design something so absolutely unacceptable when you have so many amazing reference maps that you can look at while you're making a Battlefield map? You can go back and look at maps from Battlefield 3 that are fan favorites, and you can get an idea of what they did right. But no, let's produce some garbage like Hourglass, where I have to waste like 10 minutes of my life running across the entire Saharan desert or whatever that piece of shit map is located at to even get to another flag. I mean, it is so bad. And on top of that, a lot of this game's content was caught up in the developers having to fix their own mistakes, going back and reworking a lot of the base game maps. So we missed out on actual content because they had to go back and fix things that already should have been fixed before the game was released. I mean, there are no words for just how many separate failures this game has within it. Every aspect of the game is terrible. The UI is awful. The input is terrible. The performance is terrible. The maps are terrible. The vehicle design is terrible. The gunplay is terrible at one point, and it took them months to even figure out that, oh, we probably shouldn't have guns that reach out to 150 meters with 100% accuracy. That's probably a mistake, guys. Then when you look at other things like Specialist being in the game and the stupid skins they keep putting in the game. The fact that they broke controller aim assist like 3 or 4 times. The matchmaking experience, having to wait 10, 15 minutes to even find a playable server sometimes. Loading into defense on breakthrough 15, 20 times in a row. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. I have personally loaded into 15 or 20 defense games in a row, no problem. And it's just so funny to me how the solution to that was just staring them in the face the entire time, and they never added it. They never added a server browser to the game. They just let you suffer with this matchmaking trash for eternity. And you know what? That's the way gaming is going. They're never going to give us back the server browser. In fact, I will say right here, right now, I will personally be shocked if we get a server browser in the next game. And while I'm talking about a server browser, let's talk about Hazard Zone and Portal. Hazard Zone, what an absolutely fucking horrific piece of shit. Not a single minute of any developer's time should have been wasted designing that piece of garbage game mode. Nobody played it, they stopped internally tracking player count for it within 2 weeks, and it was an embarrassment to the entire gaming world, okay? And that's after Firestorm failed as well. So, double embarrassment. And then you take a look at Portal, and unfortunately, my opinion on Portal is it's a cool concept that was horrendously executed. Unfortunately, you kind of have to treat the Battlefield community when it comes to creating servers like toddlers. You have to put child lock protection on the customizable server options, or else they'll make horrendous, unplayable trash, such as the things we see in Portal today, such as 1000% damage, quote-unquote, hardcore servers that are just the absolute worst experiences ever created in Battlefield history. These servers are not even worth the bandwidth, the server stress, whatever you want to call it, that they cause. And I'll extend that same assertion to the bot XP farm servers that you see in Portal so many times. It's just worthless. It waters down the game. People join these servers, they unlock everything in 20 minutes, and they never play the game again. It is so stupid. The only way Portal should ever come back is with heavy server customizability restrictions, at least as heavy as like Battlefield 3 or 4, so that people make playable, interesting servers like No Shark Canal, 24/7 TDM, Conquest, best map rotations, Rush and Frontlines, 24/7 best map rotations, and so on and so forth. In other words, we need to return to a community-driven server solution that actually makes servers that people want to play, not this stupid garbage that the community made with what Portal enables them to do. And I could go on and on critiquing individual aspects of Battlefield 2042, but ultimately, for me, as a player, as a content creator, Battlefield 2042 was one of the most depressing, disappointing, and horrifically unenjoyable experiences I've ever had to endure in my entire life. And people would always be confused. Well, Enders, if you think 2042 is so bad, why don't you play another game? Well, the funniest part? All the other games really sucked too. So there was this really, really long, drawn-out section of time where it was picking the least of all of the evils. And unfortunately, 2042, in my opinion, was that, even though it was as bad as it is. Call of Duty, to me, is dead. That game is just not even playable. You see people constantly complaining about skill-based damage, skill-based matchmaking, aim assist, engagement-optimized matchmaking, all this sus, weird stuff on Twitter. And to be honest, guys, Call of Duty to me isn't even a video game. It's not an option, and I haven't thought about it. You might have noticed that I didn't even upload a video on Black Ops 6 post-beta because I legitimately thought that game sucked that bad. And this is why Delta Force is a new chapter, or at least, hopefully, a new chapter. I'm not getting my hopes up too much. I understand that things look really good for the game right now, but anything can happen. And that's what I've learned over these years as being a content creator, being a player of these games. Things can start out great, but just that one mistake can really turn things on a dime, and people can really turn on the game. So I hope Delta Force will be a new chapter. I hope and I think it will be more enjoyable than 2042 was, and I'm just really excited to make content about a different game covering something completely different. And moving on, unless the subject absolutely calls for it, I would really just like to avoid even talking about Battlefield 2042. I feel as though I have really just said exactly what I need to say on all the separate subjects of the game. I'm the YouTuber that has undoubtedly covered every single thing about Battlefield 2042, its entire lifespan, every single update, every single bug, every broken weapon, every broken vehicle. So I have said what I needed to say about the game. Hopefully moving forward, I never have to talk about this game again, guys. Aside from maybe a comparison video between Delta Force and 2042, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about Battlefield 2042, so let's look to the future, let's hope for better things, and be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's open a new chapter, Delta Force on the way.